Welcome to a Champion's Journey podcast. I'm Matt Davidson. From an early age, I've had the privilege of learning from world champions and world-class performers, and I've always been fascinated by what drives them to the pinnacle of achievement. In this podcast, I'll interview high performers to learn more about the tactics and strategies which have helped them on the road to championship victory. The intent of a Champion's Journey podcast is to interview not only those who have stood on the top podium in arenas of high-level competition, but to learn from those who have conquered life's greatest challenges and have dared to live life on their own terms. When I think of tandem skydiving, the first person who comes to mind is none other than Mike Elliott. Mike was a tandem instructor who escorted former President George H.W. Bush on not just one, but 3 separate occasions. In this podcast, Mike tells us all about those jumps, his military service starting as an Airborne Infantryman, Assault Instructor, Airborne School Instructor, and Army Golden Knights Demonstration Team Leader and Tandem Team Leader. Finally, we'll hear what motivated Mike to start the all-veteran group and what has been most rewarding for him as president of that organization. Mike is a great storyteller and had me on the edge of my seat for the duration of this interview. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Mike Elliott, I really appreciate you being on the podcast with me today, brother. Thanks for making the time. I know you just got done doing a Gold Star tandem. How are you doing, and can you tell us something about that tandem?
Hey, it's a great day, Matt, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of your podcast. I listen to it all the time, and it's amazing some of the things that you do and people that you talk about on a champion's journey. Today was amazing. I had an opportunity to take a Gold Star wife on a tandem skydive, and I've been doing a lot of jumps with Gold Star family members here in the last 10 years, to include when I was on the parachute team. And I saw that the transition that skydiving can do, the smiles it puts on their faces. Today we had a lady, she had lost her husband in combat. He was in the 82nd Airborne Division. She also has 2 little boys. So, we started off this morning, and she's quite nervous about doing the jump. She had her husband's dog tags, and, we go through the class. And one of the things we do at the end of the class is they take a 3x5 card, and I have them write something down that they would love to have said to their loved ones. Something that they had another opportunity, what they would say, something like they felt like they wish they could say, or something they're trying to get off their chest. And we tape that to their arm. So we go up and we exit the aircraft, at 14,000 feet. We're free falling, they're enjoying it. The parachute opens up. We get everything loosened up. I pull deep into brakes, so, the parachute goes almost into a stall, if you will, so it gets really quiet. And I said, I want you to reach in and grab that 3x5 card, read it out loud, and then release it. And I can hear them reading it, and as soon as they let the piece of paper go, that 3x5 card go, I release the brakes. And so he goes from this really slow, smooth transition. And, man, every time it's tears, you can feel the body just release. And, I don't know what or why that is. I understand the skydiving and the passion that I have for it. But being able to transition someone that's dealing with some serious pain and take that transition to something I love and seeing it release and give them a smile, a breath of air, fresh air is absolutely amazing.
Wow, what a great way to honor their loved one. And that must be a really cathartic experience, and
Absolutely.
I'm sure emotional for both involved. And that's incredible. I didn't know. I've known you guys have been doing these for a long time, and I didn't know that you did that as part of it. And that's really, really cool. That makes it really personal, I would imagine.
Absolutely. I kept trying to figure out a way, how do I know that the jump itself is just amazing, and they take a whole lot from it. But how can I go deeper and touch inside of what they're dealing with? It's hard to get in front of a 10 to 15 Gold Star family members and say, I understand what you're going through, because no one understands what someone else is dealing with. But if I can figure out a way to get inside and share my passion and the love for falling out of airplanes to them, and it's been great. I can see that transition. And, when you get on the ground and they're smiling, they're hugging you, and they tell you they feel like they can stop a train just because they're jumped out of an airplane is absolutely amazing.
Wow. You're the president of the all-veteran group. Can you tell us what that is and what inspired you to start it?
So I started the all-veteran group about 2011. I had served 26 years in the military. 11 of those years I was with the Army parachute team. But like any soldier, you have to retire at a certain point in your military career. And getting ready to retire from the Army Golden Knights. We're a little bit older, but I felt like, man, I still loved falling out of airplanes. And I love what I can do for people through this sport. So myself and my good friend, my best friend, Dave Worley, we served on the Golden Knights together. We were in a tandem team together. We spent a short time over in Afghanistan together. We decided we was going to start our own parachute team. And a lot of guys would leave the Golden Knights after being there for many years, and they wouldn't jump anymore because they felt like they couldn't get that same type of sensation. Jumping into an NFL game, into a NASCAR race, or going out and fighting for the world championship as a Golden Knight representing the Army. It's hard to replace that. But I felt like if we could build a platform so we can still build and take some of these amazing demonstrators and champions and still give them that platform to do what they love to do, that was my project. That was my goal. I retired in 2011. A year later, Dave retired, but we were kind of starting the process of working on building this parachute team, building this platform. Unfortunately, Dave retired, and about 30 days later, he took his own life. And man, it put a hole in my heart, but it also put wings in my soul to continue to push forward to stand this parachute team up. And it was, people like Dave that are going through a lot of stress in their lives. And, we lose 22 veterans a day from suicide. What can we do to stop that? If everybody does just a little bit to try to help these veterans, show these veterans, hey, man, there's people out there that love you, that care for you, that makes a big difference. And that's been my goal ever since I started this parachute team. And, we named that building after Dave Worley. Everything I do, I think about the Worley family and what he meant to me as a friend, but not only him, all my brothers in the veteran environment and our military. Our platform is to honor, remember, and continue to serve.
That's incredible. The veteran community, thanks you for sure. And it's really cool to be able to see former team members from the Golden Knights to be able to go over and still contribute in some way, still be able to jump and do what they love, while honoring veterans. And before we move any further, I'd like to, for listeners that don't know, if you could describe what a tandem is and what a tandem instructor does.
So a tandem jump is a way to take an inexperienced jumper with zero jumps, and you give him a short block of instruction, and he's attached to a veteran skydiver. They get to experience the same thrill, the same thrill of jumping from an airplane without a arduous class or days to get up to become a jumper, a skydiver, if you will. So if someone just want to get introduced to the sport, he gets an opportunity to strap onto a veteran jumper and see what that experience is like. So a tandem jump is just basically getting that opportunity to go up and feel what skydiving is like without the arduous process of going through the class and learning how to jump on your own, if you will.
And do you guys, what organizations do you work closely with to help veterans with suicide prevention?
Man, we work with a whole lot of organizations, a whole lot of nonprofits. I basically allow a lot of nonprofits in the area from the Lily Pad organization to suicide awareness over at the VA hospital, Man 22 suicide awareness. There's, especially being here at Fort Bragg, there's many, many nonprofits, and everyone had that same goal of trying to help and trying to give back. So we use what we have, we package it up and allow people to go out and raise money by auction off tandem jumps to come tandem jump with the AVG. We do that out of the kindness of our heart, and these organizations can raise funds and be able to give to our veterans, if you will. Just like the U.S. Veterans Corps, we just jumped in to an event yesterday where they presented a veteran with a home. So there's so many nonprofits in this area, and just using our skill sets to help give back is amazing.
That's awesome. You've jumped with former President George H.W. Bush not once, but 3 separate occasions. How did you feel leading up to that first jump with him? And can you explain the preparation that went into it?
Wow. So I got a call from the commander and the Sergeant Major one day, Sergeant Major Mike Elliott. He said, hey, we need you to come to the office. I got there, and him and Colonel Deal, which was our battalion commander for the U.S. Army Golden Knights at the time, hey, come on in and sit down. We got something special for you. And so we sat there, and Sergeant Major said, hey, look, we just got a call from Gene Becker, the Chief of Staff for President George H.W. Bush. He is planning on doing a tandem skydive again for the rededication of his library in College Station, Texas. And we want you to be the tandem instructor. And of course, I'm like, oh, yeah, absolutely, no problem. And the process didn't really hit me until I walked out and thought about, oh, my God, I'm going to jump a former president. And, it was such an honor because, there was a lot of guys on the parachute team that could have had that same honor. That could have jumped the president. And for them to select me was, I was in awe. I was really I was amazed of that opportunity. But as soon as I got that first mission, I started planning. I started working out really hard. I started eating great, running, doing as many jumps as I could possibly do because I wanted to go out and represent the U.S. Army parachute team and represent veterans and our military because that's a big task. And it's going to be a whole lot of cameras pointing at you, and you want to make sure you do everything just right. And the first jump, amazingly, was not known to anyone. Mrs. Bush was not aware of it. The Secret Service guys was not aware of it. The parachute team was going to be doing a performance, a demonstration. No one knew that the president was planning on doing a jump. So we flew down to Texas, myself, Colonel Dill, Sergeant Major Mike Elliott, and we did a one-on-one meeting with the president in his office behind closed doors, no one else. And we talked about the jump. Even Mrs. Bush was unaware that her husband was planning on jumping. I can recall that, we go through this process where, a day before the jump, the entire team is down there in Texas. Mrs. Bush finds out the day before that her husband is planning on doing a jump. I had just finished doing an interview with the president, just kind of like we're doing now, a podcast with the president. And Sergeant Major said, hey, Mrs. Bush is coming down. She wants to meet the guy that's going to tandem jump with her husband. And I remember standing there in between the colonel and the sergeant major, and the whole team is standing behind me. I think it was Gold Demonstration Team. And I can see Mrs. Bush kind of coming down the stairs, and she's kind of gliding across the floor. She comes up to the sergeant major. He shakes her hand. He points at me. He brings her over. Hey, this is Sergeant Elliott. He's the guy that's going to be jumping with your husband. She looks up at me. I look down at her with a big smile on my face. She goes, if you hurt him, I will kill you. And she did not smile. She just kind of turned and walked away. And I was kind of standing there like a concrete statue, like, okay. I think she probably would have killed me if I would have hurt him. So, yeah, that was my first introduction to the president was Mrs. Bush.
That's awesome. So no additional pressure from her.
You're right.
Can you talk about some of that meeting that you had alone with him, like as far as his emotions? Was he excited? Was he nervous?
He was, the thing is, and I've met the president on numerous occasions now, and I've received numerous letters from him. On each one of his jumps, from the first one until the last one, he's a perfectionist. He wanted to make sure everything was done right. So he has many questions. Well, hey, guys, what if the weather's going to be bad that day? Well, hey, guys, what if my wife doesn't want me to do it? He wanted to jump out of an airplane, and no one's going to stop him. But he didn't want anyone to be aware that he was going to do it, because he felt like if he had told if media had got word that he was jumping and he couldn't do it the day of, then now he's put his name out there and he can't make the jump happen, because of medical reasons or whatever. So he's very, very, he's very keen on his questions and what he's going to do, and he wants to make sure he is doing it right. And he leaned on us, so what do you think about this? So what do you think about that? So, it's amazing when you sit, first of all, get an opportunity to meet a president. We see presidents all the time on television, but to actually meet a president is amazing. To actually be in the office with a president is super amazing. To take a president up to 14,000 feet and throw him out of an airplane is unbelievably amazing. So, yeah, it's incredible.
And what was that jump like? Can you describe some of it, the actual jump and what it was like with him under canopy, what you guys talked about?
It's funny. We rode over to we was in his motorcade, myself, Colonel and Sergeant Major, and en route to the airport to get on the U.S. Army parachute team aircraft, the Fokker, he calls his son, who was actively the president. His son was in a meeting, so he talks to Mrs. Bush, the first lady at the time, 43's wife. He said, hey, this is your dad. Tell my son I'm going to jump from an airplane again. And that's like, he's just now calling him, So his son had no idea that he was going to jump out of the airplane. But we got there and, the Go team was there and, the video guys. And, man, that's his world. That he really enjoyed parachuting. And I think the reason he enjoyed it so much because when he was shot down in World War II, he felt like he didn't do it correctly. And I'm not saying my thought. I'm just saying what I listened to him say. He felt like he didn't eject properly. He hit his head on the aileron of the aircraft. He lost one of his teammates in that when he was shot down. So he always felt like he had to do it and do it perfect because he didn't do it right when he was shot down in World War II.
Oh, wow. So when you're out on the jump and you're under canopy, was there a conversation that went on at all?
Absolutely. Each time he is concerned with how I'm going to land. Hey, do I get my legs up? Where are we going to land at? And the first jump we landed directly beside the library there in College Station, Texas. Very small landing area, and we're coming over the crowd and he's waving at the crowd, and we're getting ready to land. I'm like, sir, get your legs up. He's more concerned with waving, and he's just, you can see the smile on his face. And, the whole time he's thinking about, hey, making sure that I'm going to do it correctly. That's his thing. The guy is a complete perfectionist. And I just remember landing and perfect landing, unhooked him, and, he grabs me and gives me a hug, and he says thanks. And after that jump, he also sent me a letter and he said, hey, you made an old man feel young again. Thank you. And that's just, again, it's a great humbling experience. And to be able to take part in that and get that letter and read it from, a former president it's priceless.
That is very cool. I helped construct a letter, or helped write them a letter when they were both in the hospital a few years back, and they wrote back immediately once they got out, saying thank you. They've always been big supporters of the parachute team and helped us get, our newer building several years ago. And we've got, if anybody has a chance to go by the Golden Knights headquarters building at some time to see the trophy room, his jumpsuit is in there.
Absolutely.
You jumped with him in, and his frap hat and some other things there, his boots and some things like that. Some good pictures of you guys after that jump.
Right.
After that jump, did you continue to maintain any kind of personal relationship with him?
It's amazing that every Christmas since the first time I jumped him, I get a Christmas card from him and Mrs. Bush. And like I said, I got the first letter from him after the first jump, and it was not a whole lot of communications. But every Christmas, here, there's a Christmas card, and which, I'm sure he sends out a lot of Christmas cards. But when you open that up and it's signed by George H.W. Bush, it makes you feel absolutely amazing. So 2 years pass, and now he's turning 85, and I get another call from the colonel and the sergeant major, and hey, come in, we got something special for you. I'm like, all right, what is it now? Well, the president is turning 85. He wants to do a jump up in Kennebunkport, Maine. So myself and Sergeant Major and Dave just went up there to do a recon of the area, to meet with him and see what he wanted to do and where he wanted to do it at. But we had to come in to Maine incognito. He wanted no one to know he was planning on doing a jump. So we get there, and the Sergeant Major say, hey, listen, this is going to be top secret type stuff. So we're going to tell everyone in Maine that we are a private Army element. What did he say? What's the word he used? We're going to be a private Army element testing scuba gear. I'm like, okay. I don't know if that's going to fit, me well, but we'll give it a try. So that's what we told everyone. Heck, we up here, we're testing scuba gear for the Army. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But we went and went at the Walker's Point, and we had, access to everything. He wanted to land directly beside his house there on Walker Point. It was only like 10 feet by 10 feet landing area.
I was going to say, I've seen the video. It looks like a pretty tight landing area.
Sir, we cannot do that. We're good, but we're not that good. So we ended up picking St. Anne's Church, and that's the same church that him and Mrs. Bush were married at.
Oh, nice.
All the kids attended that church, and there's, right off the water, and that was the place that we selected to do the jump. So we went back and we drew up a plan, and, we were back up there for his 85th jump. And, the greatest thing was a couple of days, 2 days prior to the entire team getting there, myself and Dave were there as kind of the advon party to go up and make sure everything was set up. And we met with the president out at Walker's Point, and he was telling us about his boat. And he's like, I really want to get you guys on the boat. It was just absolutely amazing. Like you're talking to the president, and it just seemed like you're just talking to a regular guy, which he is a regular guy, but he's a regular guy that was former president and, former head of the CIA. And just this guy's pretty cool guy.
Right.
So it's around 5:30, and we're done with everything we need. And say, hey, sir, we're gonna get out your hair, go back to our hotel. And he's like, so what do you guys have planned for dinner? Well, we don't have any plans, sir. He said, well, Barb and I would like to have you guys over for dinner.
Wow.
Roger that, sir. So Dave and I go back to our hotel. We get changed. We're back at the gate, security gate at 6:30. We go up, and it's myself, Dave, Mrs. Bush, one of the grandkids, and the people fixing the food. It's a private dinner with the Bush family. And we sat there, and we had vodka cocktails, and he told us about being shot down in World War II. And it was just man, what an intimate, amazing evening, you know. We sat at the dinner table. We had steak and just, you know, a one-on-one dinner. And something that I will never forget. And I'm sure Dave, you know, would always remember as well. And it was absolutely amazing, you know, a private dinner with the former president and first lady.
Yeah, that's awesome. What an honor.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about some of that second jump and how that went off?
Our second jump was great. We had Robin Meade from CNN she had the story. So she had a chance to jump with us. She jumped with Kurt Eisenbarger, and I was there to take former President Bush on his jump. It's 85th birthday. So, you know, you have the entire world there watching, you know, this former president at the age of 85 jump out of an airplane. And I never forget where he was having he was doing his interview with Robin Meade, and Robin said, so, sir, I hear you love fishing. Yeah, I'd love to go fishing. And Robin, he's sitting there, and he's got his lucky socks on, so you can see his red socks. She goes, sir, I hear that you have a fishing boat that's 900 horsepower. He goes, yeah, that's right. He said that. Robin goes, well, sir, why would you have a fishing boat with 900 horsepower? He said, well, Robin, so I can go faster than the guys with 800 horsepower. You know, and he's that kind of guy. You know, he's always cracking these little jokes, and he's always smiling. And that day, it was cloudy. And I remember getting up, and Robin is in the aircraft, and the president's in the aircraft, and man, we're kind of socked in. Like, this is not happening. Mike Elliott, our sergeant major, was coming up. He was spotting the aircraft. He said, hey, guys, it's not looking good. And the president had this sad look on his face, like, are you kidding me? You know, I want him. This got to happen. This is what I want on my 85th birthday. And for some reason, you know, God's will, you know, about 5 minutes prior to us coming in hot target, there was an opening over Kennebunkport, Maine. You know, big enough opening where you could see everywhere and get out the aircraft. And I remember coming down, we jumped. It was a perfect jump. We had guys lurking on the side with smoke. Parachute opened up, and there was these boats in the water. And I think every one of the personnel in these boats had these little bells. And they were ringing the bells. And you can hear them from like 4,000 feet, like all these bells ringing. And he kind of looks back and he's like, that's for me. I mean, those are his exact words, you know. And man, we came in. It was a great landing, and just absolutely amazing. The day after the jump, he calls. We had the entire team up to Walker's Point. We're on the back deck. We present him with a plaque, and 43 is there, and the first lady. So now you're around two former presidents. Absolutely amazing. And the guy truly loved the U.S. Army parachute team. And that says a whole lot, because he had such a, you know, great history with jumping, and, you know, it's tied to the U.S. Army Golden Knights, and he loved the parachute team.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I can't imagine what that experience must have been like. I remember seeing the pictures and the video, and just you know, just being in awe, and you know, it's so great. And then how did the third jump come about? So,
my gosh, that day after the 85th jump, the former President Bush said, "I'm going to jump again when I'm 90." And I'm sitting there, I'm listening. It's like, man, how old would I be then? You know, would I still be able to jump him? But I was processing as he said that. I was like, man, if he wants to jump again at 90, by golly, hope I'm one to do it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when he was 89, he went through some really serious medical problems. He was in the hospital. They didn't know if he was going to make it or not. And so, you know, 3 or 4 months later, after he got out of the hospital, he goes to the chief of staff and says he's going to jump on his 90th birthday. Everyone is like totally against it. You know, his doctor is saying no. Mrs. Bush is saying no. 43 is saying no. But again, when the man makes his mind up that he's going to jump out of an airplane, that's what he's going to do. So Gene Becker, his chief of staff called me up and say, Mike, he wants to do it again. Okay. And I was thinking, well, sure he's going to probably go with a bigger element than the all-veteran group. She goes, he wants to do it again, and he wants you to do it, which was absolutely amazing. So I said, well, I'll come up and we'll do an assessment and see what's going to happen. So we flew up to Maine, myself, and I can't remember who else was with me. I think Charles Cooley was with me just to do some video of us being there. And he was bound to a wheelchair. He had a rough time with his medical condition, and of course he was dealing with MS at this point. We went up and met the president. He was working out. He wanted to show us that he was working out. So he was in his personal weight room, and he was kind of doing some weights and saying, yeah, guys, I'm getting back in shape. And he was determined to do it. Mrs. Bush didn't want anything to do with it. 43 didn't want anything to do with it. But I think that he was so determined that finally 43 said, you know what, if this is what my dad wants to do on his 90th birthday, by golly, let him do it. And Mrs. Bush finally agreed that, hey, if this is what he wants to do, let's do it. So we go through this whole process. I look at his condition, and we had a King Air 90 at the time, and there was just no way that we was going to get him out that door of that King Air 90 because, again, he had really no mobility from neck down. And he's a big guy. He's probably 6'3", 6'4".
And for those who don't know, that the King Air 90 is a pretty fast-moving aircraft.
Pretty fast-moving. It's very small door in the back, so very difficult with his condition to try to get him out that door safely. So I had jumped with the CEO of Bell Helicopter, John Garrison. So I called down to Bell Helicopter. I got Mr. Garrison on the phone. I said, hey, sir, this is Mike Elliott with the all-veteran group. This is what we're going to do. I need one of your helicopters in Keenebunkport, Maine. He said, whatever you need. They sent a brand new Bell 429 from Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, to Maine, brand new, with 2 pilots. They get there to Maine. They land in the airport there, and they say, what do you need us to do? I said, I need you to take all these leather seats out. And they did exactly what was asked of them because they wanted to compliment the former president. So we go through all this process. We got the helicopter there. I mean, we're ready to make this thing happen. Everyone is on board. The entire team is up in Maine. Everything is going great. The day before the jump, I get a call from Jean Becker. She goes, Mike, we need you over here now. I'm like, what's going on? So I get in the car, do the checkpoint, go in the office. Miss Becker is in there. His aide is in there and one of the Secret Service guys. She goes, well, we got a problem. I said, what's going on, Miss Becker? She said, Mrs. Bush said, no, it's not going to happen. Now, you got to think about this whole arduous process we went through to put this thing together. And the day before, Mrs. Bush is saying no, and nobody is going to go against Mrs. Bush. Right. She leads the pack. He called her the gray fox, and I see why.
And I'll bet her words were ringing in your head from that first
I will kill you, absolutely. That's what I was thinking. So Mrs. Becker goes, hey, so this is what we want to do. And I was like, yeah, I said, I'm sorry, but Mrs. Bush, she's going to be the breadwinner. She's going to have the lead on this. She says, no, it's not going to happen. She goes, no. We want you to go and talk to Mrs. Bush. And I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea, And the whole time, I will kill you. So I was like, well, if you guys think that's going to work, if you think I can persuade her, by all means, I'll go talk to her. So I remember we left the office and we walked up the hill to Walker's Point, and at the top of the point is his summer home. 43 has a cabin. All the kids have cabins surrounding their dad's house, if you will. And as we get close to his house, he's sitting out there in a wheelchair talking to one of the Secret Service guys, and he sees us walking up, and he calls us over. So we walk over there, and he's like, hey, guys, what's going on? And Miss Becker, the chief of staff, goes, sir, your wife doesn't want you to jump. He sits up in his wheelchair and like, what do you mean? I thought we had this worked out. Miss Becker said, I thought we did too, sir, but she is saying no, it's not going to happen. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, head of CIA, former president, he's about to put his feet down and make this happen. He says, so what are we doing? Miss Becker says, well, we want Mike to go in and talk to Mrs. Bush. And the president's kind of sitting up, and he doesn't have a smile on his face. And I'm thinking he's going to say, no, don't worry about it. I got this. He looks up at me and goes, well, do I have to go in there too? I'm like, oh, my God, I'm going to be dead. So Mrs. Becker goes in to kind of prep Mrs. Bush that, hey, I'm coming in to talk to her. And I guess Mrs. Bush is looking out the window at myself and the president and the aide. She goes, you know what? I don't want to talk to any of them. You tell him he can make the jump happen, but he better not get hurt. So she comes back down. She goes, relief. She said it's okay. About the time that she was saying that Mrs. Bush said it was okay, 43 comes out of his cabin. And I guess he had been painting. His hair is all crazy. He's got paint all over his shorts, painting on his arms. He comes over, goes, hey, what did she say? And Miss Becker said, she said it's going to happen. She said it's good to go. He looks at me, said, Mike, you the man, gives me a high five, and goes back into his cabin. So just a moment that I will never, ever forget, 43 coming out there with the paint, giving me a high five, Mrs. Bush saying no, and then seeing me and saying, what, we're going to make it happen. And his entire staff depended on me to persuade Mrs. Bush. And that is a relationship that us, meaning the U.S. Army Parachute Team, had developed with the former president. So it wasn't me up there doing the jump on his 90th. It was still the U.S. Army Golden Knights. And again, I was just a part of that major puzzle that made that happen, to put that together. The 90th birthday jump was very difficult. We wanted to we had some special harness made for the president to help get his legs up. I showed him that. And, a lot of times with, people that don't have any muscle control of their legs, we have a special harness to help get those legs up during the landing. We showed him that harness, and he was not having it. He wanted to show the world that he is still in great shape at the age of 90. So it took about 3 of us to get him in the helicopter from the wheelchair. 2 of his Secret Service guys. And again, he's a tall guy. He's a big guy. He had trouble breathing. So to help get this whole process, Sunpath Productions helped build an O2 system to put onto the tandem system. So because he had to have oxygen. So there was a lot of things that we had to kind of keep him from something happening. A lot of things we had to mitigate, from the O2 to trying to get those legs up. And everything kind of came together. The whole community kind of helped out in this area. What I'm saying is, for Sunpath Productions, XP, a lot of people came together to make this jump happen. I knew once we got him in the helicopter, he was on his O2, low ceiling, light winds, the jump was going to happen, but it was going to be challenging. We got 8,500 feet, stepped out of the helicopter, opened up, great opening. And I can recall that he was so relieved, because we were kind of flying over Walker's Point, and I could see him looking at Walker's Point. And I don't know for sure, but I think what I envisioned at that moment, he re-looked at his life, from being shot down in World War II to where he was at that moment. And he was okay with his life. He was just, and I was like, hey, sir, how you doing? He didn't really answer me. He was just kind of just relaxed. He was relaxed. He was, not saying much, but I knew the landing was coming up. And I had a rough time trying to get those legs up. And I'm like, sir, can you help me get the legs up? He was just, man, he was in a whole nother world, So, 0 winds that day. The direction of landing was not what I thought it was going to be. We came in rough, just because I couldn't get his legs up. He's such a tall guy. And I tried to do everything I could, but I knew I was going to go over top of him. So I kind of slid around so I could take the brunt of the landing. We set up. I put the oxygen on. He gives me 2 thumbs up. And, man, I'm like, this is the happiest moment of my life, because, again, everyone is clapping. And I look up, and 43 and Mrs. Bush is there. When we get him up in the wheelchair, his family is singing, and it was absolutely amazing. I felt like we made his 90th birthday one of the most special moments. When I say we, the skydiving community, because, again, it wasn't me. It was the entire community of the Golden Knights and people that fall out of airplanes for a living. That moment, we made his 90th birthday. So it was absolutely amazing. I remember after the jump, we're getting everything packed up, and the aide comes down and said, hey, they want you at the house. I'm like, oh, God, what's going on now? So I get up to the house, go into the summer room there, the sunroom, I'm sorry. The entire family's in there. When I walk in there, they're clapping. The entire family is clapping. I sat down beside 43. The president, 41, is talking to Governor Schwarzenegger. He's like, yes, Governor, my tandem guy just walked in. He's a great guy with a great jump. And, so just that moment, you got Governor Schwarzenegger on the phone. I'm sitting beside 43. 41 is talking about his great jump on his 90th birthday. Immeasurable, just immeasurable.
Yeah, that's man. I can only imagine what an awesome experience that would have been. And just like you said, it is a testament. I talk about it a lot on the podcast, how the skydiving community really comes together and we really support each other.
Absolutely.
And but it's a testament to your character and your ability, your skill as well, that he would have asked for you by name. You know, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of people that are doing tandem, so that really says something about you, man. And that is so awesome. You've jumped with many notable veterans and celebrities over the years. Which ones stand out and why, and what were those experiences like?
You know, of course, the president stands out on the top of the list. But I think some of the most memorable jumps to me are some of the veterans that I've taken, some of the veterans that are wounded heroes. For one, Todd Love. Todd was a very high double amputation, pretty much from his waist down. He also lost his left arm. And this is probably 5 years ago, I was over at the drop zone, and I get a call from Jeremy Souls. And Jeremy Souls he's out with Team Extreme in Hawaii. And Team Extreme at the time would do these amazing runs, kind of like the Spartan race type stuff. And they would wear masks because it wasn't about them. They were honoring a wounded hero. And one of the things they do is before the race, they would jump these heroes in, and then they'd go out and do this run, was a 13K or whatever it is. And wherever they place, they would put these medals around this wounded hero's neck, which is absolutely amazing that they do this type of events. Well, I get this call from Jeremy Souls and say, hey, look, we're out here in Hawaii. We got this young Marine by the name of Todd Love. We wanted to tandem jump him into this event. We're doing a 13K race in some island. I can't remember the name of it. We took him to skydive Hawaii, and they looked at his situation, and they said there's no way that they could tandem skydive him. Their instructors didn't feel that it was safe to tandem skydive him. But your name came up, and so I'm calling you and to see if you can make this happen. This is a Wednesday. This jump is on Friday in Hawaii. So I'm like, I don't know. I said, let me do some research. So I immediately Googled Todd Love and saw, how high his amputation was and that he was missing an arm. And like, man, how do we make this happen? When you see this guy, he's 20 years old and what he's done for this country, you want to do everything you can to make sure that, you can put a smile on his face. So I went over to the rig aloft, and Rob Wardwell was the head parachute technician out at Skydive Rayford at the time, who's also a former Marine. So I showed him the picture of Todd, and I said, hey, man, I want to make this happen. How can we do this? So he said, well, let's take one of the harnesses apart. Let's dissect it, see if we can build a saddle in it. So Rob worked diligently that night of building this saddle in the bottom of the harness. A harness is made to go around the legs of a person. So when you don't have legs, there's nothing to hold that harness to the body. So he built a saddle, and we put it back together. And I called American Airlines, who is a great sponsor of mine right now, and I told them, hey, look, this is what's happening. This is where I need to go. This is when I need to get there. The next day I got on an airplane. I flew to Hawaii. We had a great idea. It was a great project that Rob Wardwell put together, and we knew it was going to work. I got out there. Never met Todd before, so I'm getting into Hawaii, jet lag. I'm tired. That morning at 7 o'clock, we're going over to Skydive Hawaii to make this thing work. I get on the elevator. I'm on the 7th floor. The elevator stops at the 4th floor. The doors open up on the 4th floor, and this kid rolls in this wheelchair. I'm kind of in the back of the elevator. He kicks it up on the two front wheels and look at me, and he said, hey, are you Mike Elliott? I was like, yes. He said, well, I'm Todd Love. I said, hey, it's nice to meet you, Todd. He said, we skydiving today? I was like, absolutely. And we got to the drop zone. We put that harness on. We triple tested it on the ground. I knew it was going to work, and I had a chance to jump him, his first jump in Hawaii. And these guys go out and they do this 13K race. They come back in. They place like first. They put all the awards around his neck. And I can remember this young man on two hands, he has nothing else, doing push-ups, not smile on his face. That is what it's all about, being able to give that through a passion of jumping out of airplanes. There's nothing like it. So, and I've taken numerous amputees, Travis Mills, quadruple amputee, and it's absolutely amazing to be able to put that smile on these guys and girls' face that has given so much to our country.
Yeah, and I think Todd continued jumping, didn't he?
He did.
We've made with the 8-way team when I was with the Golden Knights, we made a jump or two with him out in Skydive, Arizona when he was out there. Yeah,
Absolutely.
He's a great guy. You've also jumped with some World War II veterans.
Absolutely. I think to date now, I've taken 10 World War II veterans. We just recently did a jump out in Kansas City last year on Veterans Day, and we called it a legacy jump. So we had 2 World War II veterans, 2 Korean War veterans, 2 Afghanistan veterans, all the way to the current war. So it was a representation of veterans from all combat situations.
Wow.
This was put together by Ryan Parrott, which is a former Navy SEAL guy, and Ryan represented the World War I veterans by doing a base jump off the World War I Memorial Monument in Kansas City. So if you can imagine Kansas City in November 11th, it's extremely cold. And, downtown, trying to put this thing together to get the clearance, the authorization to do it, it was a great climb to make it happen. But we made it happen. Extremely cold that morning. We have Skydive Chicago brought their aircraft down to support the mission. I was jumping with a 96-year-old World War II veteran. And, man, we're in that aircraft that morning. It was just crazy. It had been raining the day before. Everything opened up. And all these guys were in white jumpsuits. And, man, you can feel the happiness in that aircraft. That door opened up and everyone is yelling and smiling. We put 10 people out of that aircraft onto the grounds of that monument on Veterans Day.
Wow.
And I can remember landing and seeing all these guys, hugging each other, being a part of that moment, that legacy jump. It's absolutely priceless. And I was talking to the 96-year-old veteran that I had taken, and he said, Mike, that's by far one of the greatest things I've ever done. He said, in the last 5 years, I go up to Alaska every year and on Veterans Day, and they do ice diving. So they cut a hole in ice and they jump in to raise money. And this guy's doing this at the age of 96.
Jeez.
So when you hear a story like that, and you're thinking, man, this guy has done so much. The greatest generation ever. Still jumping on airplanes and ice diving for his brothers, for the American flag, for the freedom that we actually live in every single day. That's what it's all about.
Wow. I can only imagine what that energy was like, being there with all of those, legends.
Absolutely.
They're legends, and they truly were the greatest generation. What inspired you to take up skydiving?
I've always kind of been a adrenaline junkie. I grew up I was born and raised in Linden, North Carolina, which is, directly beside Fort Bragg. So as a youngster, I was always around soldiers, and I would see the berets, and I thought it was something absolutely amazing. My grandfather was a World War II veteran. Most of my uncles were in Vietnam, so I was always interested in becoming a soldier. I knew at an early age that's what I wanted to do. And I came in the Army as Airborne Infantry. I wanted to be the hooer guy that jumped out of airplanes and shot guns. I had no idea about free falling or skydiving until I was, a young non-commissioned officer. I got selected to be a black hat down in Fort Benning, Georgia. DA selection to go out and be a black hat. And when I got there, my sponsor was Brian Patrick.
Oh, nice.
Brian was he was my sponsor. He was my airborne buddy. And he was also on the Civil Wings parachute team. And the day that I got there, is like, hey, your guy's going to be jumping out of the drop zone, so you have to go out there to meet him. So I go out to the drop zone. I'm thinking round static line jump, and I see this guy floating down in this blue square parachute. And I go over and meet him, and it's Brian, tall, just kind of that American-looking guy. And he's like, I was like, man, what is that? He's like, I'm part of the Civil Wings Command Exhibition Parachute Team. I'm like, man, how do you do that? And he's like, don't worry about that. You need to get your black hat first. And from that day, I was like, I wanted to learn how to do this skydiving thing. Just watching him come in, and it was effortless, this beautiful landing, this blue square parachute, and like, man, how do I be a part of that? And My first year, I got my black hat within 90 days. And that first year, I was Fort Benning's Instructor of the Year, which opened up a lot of doors for me. My first thing I wanted to do was become a part of the Civil Wings, the Command Exhibition Parachute Team. And that's where I started skydiving and professional demonstrating. So,
Nice.
Absolutely.
For those who don't know, can you tell them what a black hat is and
So
what you did?
A black hat is an airborne instructor. They're selected by the Department of the Army. So there's one component that does airborne school, regardless of what field you're in. If you're in the Navy, you're in the Air Force, there is one Department of Defense school down in Fort Benning, Georgia, an airborne school. Department of the Army selects certain non-commissioned officers to go out and be instructors on how to teach folks to become airborne. And that's airborne basically is round parachute jumping, static line jumping. I mean, the static line opens up the parachute, and it's been used in numerous wars of the most expedient way to put soldiers on the battlefield. So that's basically what it's all about.
And so you were the guy there, kind of barking orders and keeping people running.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So you're on the you made it onto the Silver Wings. Can you talk about some of that experience?
So yeah, I mean, gosh, it was at the time when I was down at Fort Benning as an airborne instructor. I was really heavy into lifting weights. I was a pretty big guy, probably 12% body fat. Everything I did was muscle. And I remember my first jump out of a Black Hawk. That was my first actual skydive on static line progression. My first couple of jumps, just you step out, the static line opens up your parachute, and you land. I was like, man, this is pretty easy. And at the time, there was delays. You had a 10-second delay, a 15-second delay. When I say delays, I mean when you actually get in free fall. The first time you go free fall without the static line, there's a 10-second delay. My 10-second delay turned into like probably a 20-second delay because I flipped the entire time. And, I kept trying to muscle the air, and it just wasn't working. You have to use some finesse when it comes to skydiving. You can't muscle your way through the air as a skydiver. I remember, but I didn't want to give up. I wanted to, it was my dream to become a jumper. I remember my 13th jump down in Fort Benning, Georgia. I got out. I think it was my 30-second delay. I made it up to 30 seconds. I would still flip, but somehow I would get stable when it was time to pull the parachute and open up the parachute. So I never opened unstable, which is what kept me into the sport. My 13th jump, man, I had a line over, a cutaway, and I landed in a stockade in Fort Benning, Georgia. Now, the stockade was closed at the time. The stockade used to be a military prison. I landed directly in the stockade, and I spent like 4 hours in there because they did not know how to get me out. And I made the front page of the Fort Benning paper from a guy jumping out of airplanes, lands in the stockade, and it took a letter from the general to get me out because it was considered a prison. So I had broke into the stockade.
You're doing it wrong, man. Usually, the people try to break out, so they'd probably never experience
Absolutely,
that.
they never experienced. So you had the MPs and you had the camera, and I'm in there with my 26-foot LOPO round reserve parachute, with a sad face, like I cannot not believe this is happening. So after that, I'm like, I'm definitely going to make sure I learn how to do this, and I've never stopped. I spent 3 years with the Civil Wings, ended up being the team leader for the Command Exhibition Parachute Team of Civil Wings. And after my time at Fort Benning, I wanted everything in my power to become a U.S. Army Golden Knight. The Golden Knights used to send guys down, kind of trainer type guy, I think. And every time they came down, they would bring an aircraft down. 3 or 4 guys would come down, and these guys were like role models, and they were just like the most amazing jumpers I've ever seen. They're very professional, and the accuracy, and it was just what I wanted to be. I knew that I wanted to be a Golden Knight. So that's that opened the doors for me to go to the assessment and selection program and become a Golden Knight.
Well, that definitely worked out for you in a lot of ways, and it worked out for the parachute team in a lot of ways. A few months ago, I had the honor of presenting jackets to newest members of the Army parachute team, along with you and other Golden Knight alumni members. After the ceremony, I got to sit down with some of the guys and talk to them about, their tryout experiences. And during that conversation, your name came up quite a bit, and it was clear that you're a role model to many of them. Who were some of your role models and mentors along the way, and why?
God, there's so many. I think some of the first people that I met that really I became role models for me in the Army parachute team was Johnny Mulford and Billy Van Sullivan. I was so intrigued with professional demonstrating and watching these guys over the years as I was building up to become a Golden Knight. I was totally blown away, and I can remember my first attempt to put in my packet to go become a Golden Knight. I got kind of derailed. I put my packet in for Fort Benning to come up for the assessment selection program, got accepted, but at the same time I came on orders to go back to the 82nd Airborne Division as a platoon sergeant. And I tried everything I could to get out of that, but I ended up spending 2 years as a platoon sergeant in the 82nd Airborne Division before I could go to the U.S. Army parachute team and become a member. But the time that I was there, I spent a lot of time watching the team and learning everything I could about the team because that was my dream. And I can remember I would see these guys, these team leaders, Billy Van Sullivan, Johnny Mulford, and I ended up meeting guys from the 8-way team, Paul Rafferty, and so many amazing people, yourself, Matt Davison, and Brian Cross. And, man, such an honor to be networking with these guys. Even as, I wasn't a part of the team yet, but everyone knows it's such a small community, skydiving community. Everyone knew that I wanted to be on the team. And I would see you guys out at Skydive Rayford training and whatever, and I was treated with respect, and I was just amazed of each and every one of the Golden Knights that I met. Just a caliber of a representation of a soldier that was out representing and being ambassadors for the U.S. Army.
What was some of your other service like? You were, we talked about you being a black hat, and what else did you do in the military service before going to Golden Knight assessment and selection? So
my first duty station out at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, I was with the 2nd and 502nd Infantry Unit, and I ended up being with a scout platoon there at Fort Campbell. At Fort Campbell, everyone becomes an air assault, goes to air assault school because they're air assault type posts. So after going to air assault school, again, I was really impressed with the instructors there, and I ended up becoming an air assault instructor. And basically, air assault is rappelling. You're falling out of helicopters, but not jumping. You're attached to a rope, if you will. I left Fort Campbell, Kentucky, ended up going to Fort Bragg. And it was kind of funny because I joined the military because I wanted to get away from Fort Bragg in North Carolina because I was born and raised here, but I ended up spending 17 years at Fort Bragg. So I left Fort Campbell, came to Fort Bragg, a young squad leader in the 2nd of the 502nd. And it was just, always in high tempo type units. You had, as a young soldier, you have the adrenaline and you just, those high tempo units is what it was all about to me. And, man, so many people that inspired me along the way. There's so many of my leaders in my, coming through the ranks that I can say I learned something from each and every one of them. Not saying that everyone was great, but, you can take something from everyone. And that's what I did. Every unit from Fort Campbell, Fort Bragg, Fort Benning, I took a little bit from all the leadership that I was faced I worked with, to include me on the parachute team. I took a little bit from everyone, to make myself who I am today.
Yeah, that's great. And I remember one of the early times, meeting you and getting to work with you. We were actually on the 82nd demonstration team together. Can you talk some about that experience and what that was like for you?
Absolutely. So I didn't get the chance to go to the Golden Knights when I wanted to go. So as I stated earlier, I ended up being with being a platoon sergeant in 2nd of 325. But also the 82nd Airborne Division had a free fall parachute team, just like Fort Benning, Georgia. Fort Benning had the Civil Wings. 82nd Airborne Division had the All-American free fall team. And I started jumping with the free fall team, and it was amazing. They had a MWR kind of incentive for soldiers to learn how to jump as a motivator for soldiers re-enlisting and doing another thing. And that was a part of the 82nd free fall team. And we basically did the same thing. We traveled around representing the 82nd Airborne Division, and everyone can relate to the All-American, the double A patch, and that's what we had underneath our parachutes. And I ended up spending about 2 years on the All-American freefall team, and I ended up being a team leader for that team for a while, and that's where you and I worked at, Matt, with the 82nd freefall team. And it's kind of, the Army parachute team calls these teams farm teams, so, these guys are, you can groom these guys to become Golden Knights. And it was great that the Army and the Golden Knights had these assets for this team at these different posts. So guys could kind of get a general idea about parachuting. And they would become great Golden Knights because they had a little bit of experience before they went to the assessment and selection program to become Golden Knights.
Were you able to, the ABG, were you guys able to help some of the Golden Knights that have made it on recently? Did they get some experience with you guys before coming over?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things, it's working out really great. We had a young man, Dan McKeon, that just made the team, and another one of our guys, Nick, a rookie that just made the team as well. So a lot of guys that are in the process of going to the Golden Knights, they get a chance to come be on the all-veteran group. And we have a lot of former Golden Knights, a lot of experience on the team. Guys like Mario Rivera that spent 10 years out as a style and accuracy competitor. Mark Jones, 17,000 jumps, world champion. We have so much experience, and our passion is showing some of these younger guys and training them how to become Golden Knights. Hey, this is what you have to do. Even if it's not all about jumping, but just giving them the right amount of information to become great Golden Knights. We know jumping is a very small part of what the U.S. Army parachute team does. It's having a great attitude and representing the U.S. Army. So by them spending a year with us, or if a guy doesn't make the team, he comes back to us and he spends a year with us, and we try to help groom him so the next time he goes through the process, that he's has a better understanding of how to become a Golden Knight, if you will. That's
really great that you guys do that, because now that the 82nd Airborne Division parachute team isn't a reality anymore, it's good that there's a team like you guys that can help them do that and help
Absolutely.
them get that experience before they go to assessment and selection. Just going back to some of our time on the 82nd team, man, I can remember some of the highlights for me were jumping into the division review and just flying around in Blackhawks around as the whole division is marching down Ardennes, and you just kind of see a snake of all these barrel-chested freedom fighters, these paratroopers, walking down to the field there and being able to jump in front of them. That was definitely a highlight for me. And,
Absolutely,
we had several of those moments. It was a really great experience. What was your Golden Knight assessment and selection process like?
I'm going to tell you, at a younger age, I thought I was probably in tip-top shape. It's like barrel-chested paratrooper, couldn't tell me anything. Nothing could break me down. The assessment and selection program taught me so much. The main thing that it taught me was about teamwork. It was by far the most difficult 8 weeks in my life. There's just so much, and a lot of times when you're going through the assessment selection program, a lot of things that you're doing, you don't really understand, or you can't justify, well, why are we doing this, or why are we lining this up this way, or why are we pushing the bus, or why, but once you graduate and you see how all these things come together, how all this stuff, everything we did comes up to equals to one sum of becoming an ambassador for the military. It was extremely tough for me and the teammates, but you're there to help one another. I think that's what the main thing about it. Your tracking buddy, which is we all assign a tracking buddy, which is your right hand man or woman through the assessment selection program. That you take care of one another. You take care of your tracking partner, but you take care of that entire team. And, it's really difficult when you see you start off with 27 to 30 people, and, by the end of that program, it's like 8 or 9 people. The attrition is extremely high because it's a very a difficult task to become a member of the Army parachute team. And I think the greatest thing is after that arduous process, when you graduate and you get that jacket, just as we recently saw, it's tears rolling down your face because you have accomplished something amazing. And it does not stop when you get that jacket. It just starts that, you got to realize we're going out and we're representing the U.S. Army, and we're doing something that we truly love, which is falling out of airplanes, skydiving, but being able to represent the U.S. Army through parachuting is absolutely amazing. So that process, it kicked my butt, but man, it's worth it, and I would do it over and over again.
Yeah, definitely. It was tough for me too, but so rewarding, and it was such an honor to be able to be on the parachute team and to represent the Army. It is funny, how you say that, you start off with so many people in the selection process, and then as it gets smaller, you actually get more efficient with things like setting up the drop zone and, just in all of your normal daily tasks. And it's just funny how you would think that you'd be able to move faster in doing those tasks if you have more people, but it actually slows you down some. So when you get down to that group that that you're probably going to finish with, and everybody there is a solid performer and a solid teammate, that just as there's not too much like it, and the bond that comes out of that is pretty incredible.
Absolutely.
You were the team leader for the Golden Knights Gold Demonstration Team. How were you selected for that role? What was that experience like, and how did the position set you up for future leadership roles and responsibilities?
And I'm going to have to remember back, the team was kind of losing a lot of their leadership at the time. I want to say it was 2004 to 2006 that I was the Gold Team leader. When you get that position as a member of the U.S. Army Golden Knights to be one of the team leaders, whether it's the competition teams or your demonstration teams, it's quite a task, and you don't really know, the litmus test that you deal with on a daily basis. You're taking 8 to 10 guys in your own aircraft with 2 pilots, and you traveling around the world to represent the U.S. Army. Man, it's just words can't even describe what it's like. And the great thing about being a team leader is everyone within that element, within that team, they want to be there. So it's easy to make that job happen because you have 10 to 12 male and females, and that's their life. They live and breathe the black and gold. So they want to be a part of it. You just have to give them a time, a uniform, and where we're going and what you have to do. It's a great task, but it's also every day that you're jumping out of an airplane, you have to also realize that, you're representing our veterans and our military, but it's inherently dangerous what you're doing. If you can imagine, jumping to me is kind of like going to a live fire exercise every single day. You have to know what you're doing. You have to keep people aware of the surroundings and situation, aware of what they're doing, because it doesn't take but one time that someone is hurt or someone lands in a crowd, and that's why we have to train to be the best at what we can be at what we do, and that's why we're the black and gold. And we have conquered the skies because it takes a lot of skill sets to make it happen. So being selected as a gold team leader and saying that I had that leadership position was absolutely amazing. It was an honor for me. And again, it's not a difficult task to be a leader because you have guys that want to be there. If you have, 10 swimmers and they love swimming, hey, just give them the water and let them swim. And that's what parachuting is all about. That's what the parachute team is. We love parachuting. Give us a time where we need to be, and you're going to have great people doing it.
Yeah, you talked about the inherent dangers in it, and people always ask me, hey, does jumping ever get to the point where it's just kind of boring for you? And I'm like, no, it never gets boring. I always have a healthy respect for the dangers, but it can get a bit routine. When it's not a bit routine is whenever I do a demonstration, because it's not business as usual anymore. You're in a different place, and the circumstances are always different. So being a demonstrator all the time, I was never a full-time demonstrator. So doing that, I can only imagine that's why you guys had to train so much and so effectively, because you say the size of the target never changes, but there's all kinds of different elements that
Absolutely.
play into that. You have different wind conditions when you're in stadiums and things of that nature. So
Right.
It's never business as usual when you're on the demonstration team, and you have to constantly prepare for all of those different things that can happen. What were some of your more memorable demonstrations with the Gold Team?
Oh gosh, I would say that the Chicago Air and Water Show. When you're out, you're preparing to jump into these air shows, and there's 300 to 2 million people. I think Chicago Air and Water Show, there's 2 million people,
Wow.
and you're landing, right there on the waterfront, and getting out and you're looking down at the lake and you see all these people and the parachute's open up, and you coming at 1,000 feet and you can hear the roar of the crowd if they're yelling USA, USA. It's so hard to even explain what's that sensation is like. It's absolutely amazing. So I would definitely say, man, every show is different, but every show is great. I love the big, large crowds. I love the air shows, but I also love the small towns, where you can really touch each and every person there. The air shows are great, but, it's hard to touch 2 million people. But if you got a smaller show when there's 5,000 people there and you can touch every American soul that's watching you, man, that's nothing like that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You then became the Golden Knights tandem team leader. Can you tell us about that experience?
Well, yeah, the tandem team was absolutely an amazing part of the Army parachute team. I think it stood the tandem team up around 2000. And I think the reason why the Army stood up the tandem team is because the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels were doing these ride-alongs in their jets. They were taking some of these VIPs and some media folks on these rides, and it was a great experience. And, another way to promote the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels. And the U.S. Army Golden Knights want to do something kind of similar, taking these, some of our military soldiers as an incentive program, taking, some media folks on tandem skydive. So, it gave us the opportunity to be on television to talk about the U.S. Army and the military. My goal was to take the tandem team and the orientation program, to the highest level possible. I wanted people to walk away with that experience and for it to be something that they never forgot. And, when you meet someone within 30 minutes and you have them in an airplane at 14,000 feet, you have just a very small amount of time to build their trust in one another. And I wanted people to be able to build that trust in us, do that tandem jump, and walk away with a sensation of them being as important or more important than they ever thought they would be. So, I'm always about taking it to the next level. And so it was just a challenge to try to figure out how to make this better and better each and every time. And I think, that the tandem team now is still capturing the essence of what jumping is all about, capturing the essence of what because you're proving to the American people that what our soldiers do every single day. Hey, you may not see what the soldier's doing over in Afghanistan, but I'm going to give you the idea of what the professionalism that goes on each and every day that our soldiers are doing on the battlefield by me, picking you up on a tandem skydive. And that program has flowered into something absolutely amazing because, a lot of times people don't get a chance to work one-on-one with the soldier. And by having this amazing program, tandem orientation program, you can take a person that's never met a soldier and they get a chance to work with them for an hour or 2 hours, and they walk away with like, man, these guys are professional. This is what our U.S. Army is all about. So absolutely amazing.
And they get to see, not only the tandem section, but also the Golden Knights aviation section and the true professionals that those guys are.
Absolutely.
It's a great experience. If anybody can get involved with it, I would definitely recommend it. Jenna Bush just did a tandem jump with the Golden Knights tandem team, and you were a part of that, right?
Absolutely. I was called by some folks from the military, the media program, if you will, and they were trying this whole new live feed, if you will, which absolutely worked perfectly, but they didn't know how it was going to work. And if the live feed did not work, they wanted me to be there to commentate and talk about the jump that was happening with Jenna Bush. And also a familiar face that jumped with her grandfather. And she was doing it to represent her grandfather and to also represent the military. And she was doing a jump into the Army Museum there at Fort Eustis, which was absolutely beautiful. So it all came together, and just being there and being a part of that and it was so amazing when Jenna Bush got there, and the pilots pulled up the Twin Otter, which was named after her grandfather. And she looked back and saw that, and the look on her face, the smile, is like, oh my God, this day is so amazing because I just seen my father's name on this plane. And man, it made me feel proud to be a part of such an amazing organization that's been around since 1959 and is still doing great things. And, it's a brotherhood, it's a family, and to see those guys go up and perform that jump with Jenna Bush, almost perfect. And me just to be there and be a part of it, man, it's just icing on the cake.
I know that anytime I'm back around the team, it really brings it front and center how much I miss, being a part of it. And I was just wondering if you're experiencing that as well.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was once again, it was such an honor to be a part of that. Following your retirement from the Army, you started the All Veteran Group, which we've talked about. What's been most rewarding for you as founder and president, and why?
I think what really has been great for the AVG is being able to go out and connect veterans to corporate America, if you will. American Airlines has been one of our sponsors now for 5 years. They're the official travel airline for the All Veteran Group. And being able to get that relationship with American Airlines. You think about the world's largest airline corporation and giving us the opportunity to have American Airlines on our uniform and on our parachutes. It's ironic, but it's great. And, being able to market with them and get them as sponsors is absolutely amazing. And it's all about what I've learned over the years, as a soldier, as a member of the Army parachute team, an ambassador for the Army, being able to package that up and as a veteran now and go to corporate America and still be able to get these people to support what we do. We have Window World, which is the largest window company in the world. They came on board 2 years ago as a sponsor. And again, being able to walk in to their CEO and say, this is what we do. This is why we do it. We want you to be a part of it. And them coming on board is absolutely amazing. And again, we've been around since 2011. It's been challenges. There's been obstacles. But again, we push forward and we find a way to make it work. And it's absolutely amazing.
What's been your most memorable demonstration jump with the AVG?
Oh, my God. So we've had the opportunity. We did the first ever parachute demonstration jump in Jamaica for the 50th anniversary of our independence. And I remember we flew over with Freddie Cabana and his little aerobatic plane and a Beech 18, and we did their first air show there. It was pretty amazing. I think one of the most amazing things that we did was for the 70th anniversary of Normandy, of D-Day, the AVG went over to Normandy. We had a chance to jump out of a Whiskey 7. It's a DC-3 that flew during the Normandy invasion. Wow. And I tandem jumped with General Patton's great-great-granddaughter, Helen Patton, into Picqueville, France.
Wow.
No words can even explain what that feeling is like. And I remember standing there in the door with her, and you're flying in this DC-3, and you notice this same aircraft that flew during that D-Day invasion, and you jump out and you land, and as soon as we land with her, she said, it's over, it's over, it's over. And man, just, how do you explain that? Wow. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I would imagine it's hard to. Yeah, I'm picturing, being in your shoes for that and just what that would have felt like because, I've been on some pretty great, demonstration jumps, and there have been lots of times where, you hear the national anthem play and you're standing in line up in the jumpsuit and beret and, you're just getting chills,
Absolutely.
Getting goosebumps. And, I can imagine that was the way you're feeling then. You had a total hip replacement surgery a couple of years ago. What was most challenging for you in that experience, and how did you overcome it, and what kept you motivated to get back into the air?
So I was really, I started feeling the pain and just, the pounding of years of jumping and road marching. It takes a toll on the body after a while. And, the pain was getting unbearable. I could barely tie my shoe. And I was like, well, I'm gonna have to get something fixed. I was doing the steroid injection shots, and it worked for a while, but it was so bad. It was just, now it was bone on bone. And the doc said, look, you're not that old, but your hip is like a hip of a 90-year-old. So you got to get it done. And so I'm like, doc, so what does that mean for my career? Is jumping jumping is my life. And well, I wouldn't advise you to jump it again. I said, but technology now is amazing. I don't know what you're going to be able to do, but you should be able to do a whole lot more that you're doing. So I was kind of, I did not want to do it because I didn't know what the end result was going to be. And, I know one day we're all not going to be able to jump out of airplanes until we, 100 years old. One day we're going to have to hang the hat on a nail, but I wasn't ready to do that. So I went through the process of the surgery, which was very quick. And, 7 days after my surgery, I did everything within my parameters of what I could do as far as moving around, my mobility. I was in my house with my walker, made sure nobody saw me walking around with a walker, but after that 7 days, I felt great. And amazingly, a month later, after my total right hip replacement, I did a tandem skydive, and I haven't stopped jumping since. So, it's a testament that our technology is great. Our body parts are going to wear out eventually, but there are ways to continue to do what you love to do. And, jumping is my life.
What was that first jump back like for you? How did you feel?
I felt great. I felt like I was 21 years old. At least I was telling myself I felt like I was 21 years old. I was a little concerned with the impact, but I knew I can just slide that tandem in, and it was perfect conditions. I would never risk anybody else's safety. So I knew I was ready for it, and my body, my hip felt great, and it still feels great to this day.
You did a front ride on a tandem, right?
No, I did a tandem skydive.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Nice. Did you have someone else attached to you?
I surely did.
Who'd you have riding with you?
I had one of the VPs of Bell Helicopter attached to me.
Nice.
So,
that's awesome.
Yes,
I didn't know that. I misunderstood when you told me before. I thought you were, doing a front ride as kind of a, just to get back in the air. But that's awesome. That's
absolutely.
way better. You were a great help to me with insights and information when I had to get my total hip replacement surgery recently. You've been a great friend to me over the last 20 plus years that I've known you. You've opened your doors to me, giving me a place to stay, essentially charging me whatever I could afford as I was going through some tough personal times about 11 years ago. I'd like to take this opportunity to publicly thank you for that. It's a testament to your character and to the kind of friend and teammate that you are, and I love you, brother. I really appreciate that.
I love you, brother.
And I also want to thank you and the All Veteran Group and American Airlines for sponsoring my travel to and from Russia for with the U.S. skydiving team for the World Championships next month that are coming up. We really appreciate that. Really appreciate the support. Paraclete XP, they're funding it mostly, and but it as you know, it takes a lot to support a team of that size. So we really appreciate it. What's next on the horizon for you and the All Veteran Group?
It's amazing now that some of the parameters had loosened up some from COVID and getting back out in the community and performing. We have a full show. I think we have close to 110 shows on our schedule right now. So we're going, we're wide open, and it's great. And we're going to continue to do what we love to do, continue to represent our veterans and our military, and put smiles on some of our wounded heroes' faces and our Gold Star families. It's so important to be able to share the love that we have with others in a positive way of putting that smile on their face. I'm looking forward to you guys going over for the World Meet. It's funny, the last couple of months I've been watching you guys training out at XP, and it's hot, and the humidity is crazy here, and I see you guys running back and forth in between the jumps. I'm like, man, these guys are awesome. Some of the former Golden Knights that are still doing the former world champions that still have that passion, still have that love to go out and achieve and bring the gold home is absolutely amazing to me, and that's why I do what I do and love it so much. Just the quality of people and the brotherhood and the camaraderie is absolutely amazing.
Well, we appreciate it so much, brother. I appreciate you taking the time out to do this. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.